Participles in Hebrew are verb forms that act like adjectives, nouns, or verbs, depending on context. In English, participles include forms like running, written, or broken, where words receive letters or change their form. Hebrew has similar structures that convey ongoing and continuous actions, like doing, does regularly, or the one who does or is doing, thereby functioning as adjectives or nouns and being based on verb patterns. Participles are derived from verb roots and follow patterns that reflect the verb stem, gender, and number, like the root kaf, taf, vet, which is a verb pattern for writing. Considering this pattern, the use of Hebrew participles can be in adjective and noun form. When used as adjectives, participles can describe nouns, like saying ha'ish, hakotev, sefer. Ha'ish, hakotev, sefer. The man writing a book. The participle hakotev indicates a continuous action to the noun, meaning the man who is writing. Ha'ish, hakotev. In English, the participle form receives letters, but in Hebrew, the prefix ha is added. Grammatically, such a formation that shows a continuous action is an attributive participle, where the word is used like an adjective and modifies a noun. Ha'ish, hakotev. The writing man, or the man who is writing, and these words agree in gender and number with the noun they describe. However, it's also possible to have predicative participles that form the main part of a sentence. In English, the meaning of the sentence would change by referring to the subject, but in Hebrew, the removal of the prefix from the participle itself is the only thing that changes. So, saying ha'ish kotev sefer means the man writes a book, and the words still agree in gender and number. The difference in the participles is in the prefix ha. Ha'ish, hakotev means the writing man, or the man who is writing, showing something continuous. But ha'ish, kotev means the man writes, which gives a different meaning. So we need to understand this difference. Moreover, participles can also function as nouns, specifically agent nouns that describe the one who does the action. For instance, kotev can mean writer, shofet can mean judge, and lochem can mean fighter. These words can be participles that act as agent nouns, but it's important to not confuse them when they're used in context. If suppose we say ani kotev, ata shofet, ata shofet, hu lochem, the words will have a meaning of masculine subjects that act in the present tense. In other words, the meanings are I write, ani kotev, you masculine judge, ata shofet, he fights, hu lochem. Notice how with the subjects, the meaning changes in the phrases due to the present tense. Still, this lesson is about participles, so depending on the context, participles can function as agent nouns, like saying ani kotev she'oved basifriya. Ani kotev she'oved basifriya. I, masculine, am a writer who works in a library. Ata shofet bebeit hamishpat. Ata shofet bebeit hamishpat. You, masculine, are a judge in a court. Hu lochem bamishpacha shelo. Hu lochem bamishpacha shelo. He is a fighter in his family. In this context, the participles are the nouns for the ones who do the action, so we must understand this idea. In general, participles matter in Hebrew because of their function, which can imply some type of action, like a participle that acts like an adjective describing a noun. התלמיד הרץ. התלמיד הרץ. The running student, masculine. On the other hand, it can be an agent of an action, like שופט, שופט, judge, masculine, which is an agent noun. At the same time, a participle can be circumstantial, acting like a basic verb and showing ongoing actions in a tense, like the present tense. הוא אוכל תפוח. הוא אוכל תפוח. He is eating an apple. As a note, any participle in Hebrew does not express the past or future by itself, but there are exceptions in biblical Hebrew, where participles have time markers for different tenses. Still, we don't need to cover it because it's obsolete in spoken Hebrew, and what really matters is knowing that participles are ongoing only in the present tense. Furthermore, Hebrew has passive participles that describe something or someone receiving the action. But at this point, the grammar of root patterns will be tricky because of the behavior of roots when put in passive participle form. Let's take the following root from these three letters. Pei, taf, chet. Pei, taf, chet, which is a verb pattern for opening. Generally, the root will use the three letters in many conjugations, tenses, and pronoun forms, but when used as a passive participle, new letters may be added to it, like niftach, niftach, meaning being opened, or is open, masculine and singular. Using this participle, we can have an example like החלון נפתח פתאום. החלון נפתח פתאום. The window is being opened suddenly. In essence, it's not that necessary to show every Hebrew passive participle in every gender and number, because they're very common, and it's easy to find them in many contexts. Just be aware that such words can appear with extra letters, due to their grammatical form as passive participles. In conclusion, this is how participles fully work in Hebrew.